Here's more from Brian Kelly. Speaking of Chris Hilton, Hilton who missed some time on Saturday. Here is Kelly talking about an update here.
He got banged up a little bit.
I think he'll be all right. It was an ankle. It wasn't Owen talked to me after. He said, I think it'd be best we just keep him out. So didn't seem to be, high ankle or something that would be affecting him for long term. Much more of about a precaution.
That's an update on Chris Hilton. Chris Hilton dealing with an ankle issue. This would be my only concern on Hilton. Like, I am expecting Chris Hilton to take that next step. I really am. I think that he's set to have a breakout season. I think he's set to be a guy that's really kind of, it's his time. You kind of look at the life cycle of players in college football. If you've been on campus 3 to 4 years, at some point, it's going to be your time and you are going to be up. And for Chris Hilton, he's up. It's time for him to kind of step into being an everyday player. And it looks as if he has taken that serious, right? Whether it's his plays throughout the first part of camp, where he's been one of the guys that he's stood out. He's been out there. He's caught everything. He looks good route running. He looks like he's kind of transformed from
one-trick pony
track / football player to a football player / track guy, right? Where he's a football player now. At least he looks like one. And this is the stuff that makes me, if I'm just kind of where my chips at on Chris Hilton.
I'm buying the insurance.
Yeah, I'm in on Hilton. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm in. Chips middle of the table. I am keeping a little insurance
I got
back.
some in my pocket.
Right? Just in case, going into week 3, 4, 7, 8, when this, the train's moving down the track and we don't have time to really kind of slow it down or have to stop and let people off, that, you're going to have to fight through some stuff that maybe in the years past you miss a couple of games. A nagging ankle injury is probably going to be on everybody's list come midseason. And the second wide receiver of a top 10 team is going to have to fight through. I believe Chris Hilton will do that. Chris Hilton has not proven that he can do that yet. And I think he will this season. But if there's any apprehension on Chris Hilton, I think that's it. I think that's just kind of like, get through those, get through. And look, it's mid-season. It's mid-mark of camp. Chris Hilton may be one of those guys that it makes sense to give a day off. You know what you got. You know the progress he's made. You've seen his consistency. Give him a day off. I'm with it. That makes sense.
Is he a player that you feel like you absolutely need to have just because of how deep that receiver room, if you don't have a Chris Hilton, if this is what it's going to be throughout the year, whether it's – because he does give you track vibes of if it's not 100%, I can't go.
Well, I think
that's just what it's been.
What you need more than anything, and I think this is why C.J. Daniels has emerged in that room early on, is that you need a consistent pass catcher. You need somebody that you can count on. You don't need Jamar Chase. You don't need Malik Neighbors. You don't need Brian Thomas or Justin Jefferson. If those guys happen, it's phenomenal, and LSU has proven that the state has those guys all over the place. The one common denominator with all those names is that they're all from Louisiana. So is Kyron Lacey, so is Chris Hilton, and so is Aaron Anderson. At some point, somebody's going to have to step up and be a consistent pass catcher that the quarterback can trust. And I think that's like, I'm comfortable with the room. I know they have options. I know they have players and they got guys that it doesn't matter who's out there, but at some point you got to put guys out there. At some point guys have to be consistent of, that's what was the best part about Beckham, Landry, Chase, Jefferson, Neighbors, Thomas. They were available. They played. They were there. They were there every single Saturday. It didn't matter if it was Western Kentucky or if it was, in the swamp. Those guys were making plays, and they were available. And that has to be, look, and this is no disrespect to this year's crew, because I think this year's crew is as good as they can win at the highest level. Everything that you want to accomplish, you can accomplish with this selection of wide receivers, in my opinion. But at some point, you got to know who it is. I mean, are we all secure Kyron Lacy's going to be the one? Are we all secure that Chris Hilton's going to be the 2? C.J. Daniels feels like the 3rd? And then, kind of where's the pecking order after that? That's what I want to see. I mean, that's a big, hey, what are you looking for going into game 1? I want to see who the quarterback trusts on 3rd and 7, who he looks towards, and the guy that makes the catch, because it may not be the guy in week 1 that it is in week 3 or 6 or 9. Wherever it is. I mean, who are going to be those guys? Is it going to be Trey'Dez Green?
Kamorian Pimpton?
Or is it going to be Mason Taylor?
Mm-hmm. Somebody we're just not talking about that is absolutely going to have a massive role on the team.
I think so. And
she'll roll out 13 personnel.
Might as well.
I would love to see it. Kamorian Pimpton, Trey'Dez Green, Mason Taylor.
And there's
throw it as high as you can.
Well, I've seen video.
Me too.
Of both those guys out there. I think within the red zone, LSU is going to be such a problem.
Nasty.
Such a problem.
I can also turn around and give it to Caleb Jackson, who's all of 240 pounds.
Well, because, to get into the red zone, I've got you kind of worried about these big freaks boxing you out and me just throwing it up anyway. So now you get these people out of the box, and then here comes pulling Will Campbell.
Oh. Yeah, and then I'm just leaning on you the whole drive because I got 5 just titans up here.
And also what they did on Saturday is they can hit you with that quick game, like these little speed runs underneath where you have Xavion Thomas in motion, you have a Chris Hilton in motion, where it's like they can paper cut you to death with the amount of ways that they can hurt you offensively. It just seems like you really can't call a bad play with the amount of athletes LSU has rolling out there.
And I really think
the potential is unbelievable.
That's the formula this season of, at least early on, is ball control, paper cuts, like you're talking about. Not necessarily these over-the-top kill shots that can strike at you from 2, 3, 4 play drives. Do you take them?
Yes.
All day? But I think that the mentality of building kind of the confidence of this offense, kind of, feeding the fuel into the engine of this train that we're talking about starting to move down the track of the season, is let's build the identity of the offense being built around the offensive line, veteran quarterback who is matured in a decision-making mode, and establishing who these wide receivers are for LSU. That's what I believe the early on kind of process of the offense is going to be. I think the offense is going to be as good as they were last season, to a point of they'll be as effective as they need to be. Will they be the number 1 offense in the country? I don't believe so. But will they be as effective? I believe at times, yes. They'll have some 3-and-outs and some stops that you weren't used to seeing with Jaden Daniels and Thomas and Neighbors and the crew. But I also believe that they're going to pound people to death, where in the 3rd, 4th quarter you'll see some teams just kind of on roller skates, kind of hands up, we're done.
Defensive lineman, hands on hips.
Throw the towel in, Mick. We're ready. Get me to the airport. Let's get the hell out of here. I think LSU's, they have the potential of beating the will out of teams this season with the way that they're built. Just
like
pile driving you into the ground in the 4th quarter. Just like
no boss. Mouthpieces out.
Yeah, come get me.
Yeah,
get me out of here. Get me out.
I don't like this.
Remember our friends over at WideRate, widerate.com. Are you a qualifier for NAD+? Is it right for you? Replenishing your body's NAD+ levels can drastically reduce the unfavorable feelings associated in those experiencing decreased energy level, fatigue, foggy memory, people who are wrestling with side effects of aging, who suffer from certain age-related illnesses or chronic conditions. Get over to widerate.com. They're located off of Burbank in that shopping center right past West Lee. Easy to find them online, though, at widerate.com. Ask them about the NAD+. If you're into stem cell therapy and learning more about that, they offer that over at widerate.com. Find out more. Widerate.com is where you can find them online. And they bring you our show each and every day. So I believe the offense is going to be fine. I really do. And I hate to be even a little overconfident going into the season offensively, but I just think when you have an offensive line, when you have the ability to really control the line of scrimmage like LSU does this season, they're going to run into some tests. I think they're going to run into some tests some weeks where they're not the clear cut. No doubt. But I still think that they have the advantage on the line of scrimmage.
I was about to say I don't think USC is.
Yeah, I don't think their defensive line. I think their defensive line is. They've probably got some nice individual matchups for LSU. But when you look at it on paper,
Bear Alexander.
Yeah, I mean,
but like I think
4/4 of it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's not his strong suit,
right? Like I mean, that's the thing about LSU that I think people are going to fall in love with this season, or at least for me, is the attractive point going into the year on them is that they really could be nasty up front. Yeah. Like they could really control games on the line of scrimmage. I mean, for as much as I bash on Les, and I'm sorry for doing that at times, this is a Les Miles wet dreams. This is a Les Miles wet dream of a team.
Yes.
I mean, boys, we never have to throw it.
If I can run winners,
you know what I mean?
40 times.
We could literally run this thing 65 times a game.
You'll never even have to look up.
I mean, I'm going to call this Schembechler right and Bo left. I mean, we don't have to throw it at all. But, I mean, I think that the offensive line's that good is what I'm saying. I think that they have the ability